Hello and welcome to Education Talk. Now on this program, we'll be discussing various issues on education throughout the week, including why children should be banned from watching payday loan adverts. With me today is Dr. Chrissy Mafidon. He's a consultant to monarchs, presidents and governments when it comes to educational matters. Dr. Chris, you're very welcome to our studios today.
Thank you. Thanks very much for your invitation.
You're welcome. Now, 3/4 of British parents want payday loan firms to be banned from advertising to children on TV and radio, research suggests. A Children's Society survey of 1,065 parents suggests overwhelming support for a ban on adverts for these short-term, high-interest cash advances. The Children's Campaign follows concern that interest rates of up to $6,000 a year on such loans can plunge families into problem debt. Brian Cox explains the impact debt has on children.
Brian, our research has shown there's 1.3 million families in the UK who are living on problem debt to fund not an exorbitant lifestyle, but the basics of life: food, clothing, heating, lighting. What would you say to that?
Shameful. Absolutely shameful. If you expose a child to such level of poverty, it'll stay with them all of their lives. No matter how successful they come, no matter how they come out of that, that will never leave them. That's a scar, that's a mark that you cannot erase.
Brian, our research has showed that problem debt for families and for children is causing huge amounts of anxiety, stress, worry. Are you surprised to hear that children in the UK are living with that degree of worry today?
I'm shocked that they are. It doesn't surprise me that that's the result, because that is the result. I've been through that. I've witnessed that in my own life with my mother. You cannot ever, ever, ever underestimate the stress that is caused by poverty, ever.
So some people would think, well, children worry, but when they become an adult, they'll forget about that and move on from it. What's your experience?
I've never forgotten about it. I mean, I think you become tough, but I've never forgotten about it. You can bury it, you can hide it, you can rise above it, you can do all your, but it never goes away. Believe me, I know.
Brian, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your thoughts. We much appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
1.3 million families in the UK are living on problem debt. For many, children go to school without breakfast, do not participate in extracurricular activities, and this affects the education of the child. Dr. Chris, this has been a big problem for many families, and how best can parents and teachers help such children?
The policy of the government should be very clear. Provision of breakfast and lunch, meals should be free during school time and in school. And I'm very pleased that one of the political parties have proposed this, and they are very convinced because of the link between hunger and academic performance. So we can easily, the government can easily sort that out very quickly, and the teachers can put pressure on the government to know this. 2, the extracurricular activities, it should be treated as part of education. If it affects education, enhances learning, if sports and music will affect the way you perform in class or your understanding of maths and English, then it should be treated as a pure educational activity. It should be made free, available to anybody that wants to participate in any extracurricular activity. Because the problem is just too fundamental for the government to start addressing debts. If you owe anybody anything, you are a slave to the person. If the parents are not informed enough in terms of financial literacy to get themselves bonded for 6,000 percentage point, then it's a fundamental problem that will require societal encouragement of everyone. Before you open a bank account, you should go through some form of training. And when you've gotten the license, you've done the training, you've done the assessment, then you're given the license before you can be given an account. If you're given a bank account, it means that you understand all the fine prints that come with your credit cards. You understand all the fine prints. What's an APR? You know that. If you don't know that, and then you sign a piece of paper with a commercial, a very, very, very aggressive commercial lender, then the PPI comes all over again, because PPI was mis-selling of financial products. That is still happening at a lower scale. So if the government really wants it, get everybody that wants to open an account to have that formal education and training before they get into the business of money.
The Children's Society is complaining that a lot of adverts is still targeted at children, especially payday loans. Now, shouldn't financial education be incorporated into the curriculum of the schools so that our children from childhood, they know the dangers of getting into debt because the borrower is always subject to the lender?
The advert is an advert, and everyone should understand what an advert is an exaggeration of the truth or incorporation of half-truths or pleasant lies. So if you know that if you, for instance, drink orange juice, you're not going to be able to run 1,000 miles like you do with the advert, then you know that is an advert. It's there to entertain you. You don't inform it. But the advertisers are very subtle. They are planting subliminal messages to anybody that sees it. So if you know that the advert is effective in affecting the minds of children, particularly vulnerable children, very innocent children, why would you allow that to be sandwiched between programs that children watch? I've never been able to work that out. So until we are very sure that advert has no impact whatsoever on human minds, we should not allow children to listen to it because they'll be misled. They need protection. They don't need to be exposed to such jingoism or to such untruths. We need to provide some form of haven for them. If we don't, then we're failing our duties and our responsibilities.
Well, one of the things we just raised there was our children being taught financial education from a very young age. Let's look at parents now. Should the government come out with a scheme to educate parents on the dangers of this so that they can pass that information on to their children as well?
We should do that, but the second part of it, I'm not sure they'll be able to pass it on to their children. Yeah, they should do it for themselves. The government should make it a policy, just like they do when it comes to taxes and taxation. They must let everyone know your role and your responsibility in terms of managing the resources you have. So it's resource management, not just money management, time management, because a lot of adults were not taught this. They have not been trained in this. So that ignorance is being exploited by firms that have commercial interests. And who will blame them? Because that's why they exist. They exist to make profits. They exist for the interest of their shareholders. If they do, then they must overmarket their products. It's just that the parents need to be informed, educated, and trained. All three of them rolled into one, not used as synonyms on this occasion.
What about our children in school?
Our children in school ought to know that when they look at percentages, ratios, and decimals, it's not a theoretical concept. You tell them, if you were going to buy a pair of shoes today and you didn't have the money, if you bought it for £10, wait another 30 days, that pair of shoes that you bought for £10, effectively you'll be paying £30 for them. And then wait for another 2 months, you'll be paying £150 for them. So would you like to pay £150 for a pair of shoes that cost £10? The answer is almost always no.
So there may be a need for a different subject called financial education apart from what is found in maths.
Yes, totally independent, because it's the real application of mathematical principles. You're saying, this is what you have now. You have only £5. Do you want to wait until you get another £5 before you buy your product? Or do you want to take £5 from another person who will come back in 3 months' time to ask for £300? If you put it in percentages, it doesn't make any impact whatsoever. If you give it in terms of the cash you're going to pay back, then everybody wakes up and says, no, I don't want to pay that much for what £5 is. I'll rather wait until I have my money and I buy it.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. Well, for more information, you can send emails to educationtalk@loveworldtv.co.uk, especially for parents who are wondering, how do I pass this information down to my children? And now let's go over to the University League tables. Top of the class, Imperial College joins Cambridge as Britain's best university, joint second place globally and well ahead of Oxford, which shares only 5th with the University College London. Dr. Chris, what does this mean? Oxford is not going to be happy with this at all.
It shows competition in the HE sector, which is very healthy. It means that if you're always stopping the class, what happens to you? You become complacent. You do whatever you want to do. But if you know that somebody is right next to you, and if you slow down, the person is going to overtake you, what do? You now say, oh, no, I mustn't let him overtake me. I'll review and then make sure that I re-energize and I do things differently. Although this talks essentially about research, teaching will eventually drag or draw from research. So if you know that you are a university, you are very good at research, you're very good at innovation, you're very good at attracting research funding because of your reputation, you cannot say, I don't need to do more. You need to hire more researchers, you need to get people that ask questions, people that really don't take a dogma and accept it for what it is. If you know that today we can run 100 miles without, for instance, slowing down to drink a bottle of water, what you need to do is find out how much more endurance will we get today if we have electronic monitor attached to the person. So you're researching, you're trying to find out more questions that fundamentally defines what we see, how we behave, what we live by. If you keep asking questions, you always keep learning. But if you stop, you get yourself in trouble. And the older universities tend to be wanting to stop or slow down.
Yeah, wanting to stop or slow down. Let's look at one of the inventions by students in Imperial College, which is an intelligent knife which can detect cancerous cells in real time during surgery. And interestingly, looking at that invention, that was one of the things the QS survey considered by giving Imperial College joint second place globally.
Yes. Because if you're looking at beneficial surgery, you have to innovate. First, most people just use the crude scapula to cut. Now we are having microsurgery. We are having pinhole surgery. And we need to have lasers introduced because the lasers cuts better than knife. And laser will not, in most cases, be as traumatic as we have with knife. So if we're able to modify the knife and the knife is able to detect cytological changes, what will happen to the cell wall of the cell, what will happen to the shape of the cell, what will happen to the mitochondria, then you must not say, oh, I think we did it like that yesterday, we're going to keep doing it the same way over and over again. No, you cannot make anything routine. You have to be sensitive to change. And what is more, we've got technology that gives us a huge advantage. So this generation of healthcare practitioners cannot say the tools of yesteryears are as good as the ones that we are now making available to us today. And the ones of today are not good enough for tomorrow. So if you know that it's a continuum, change will always occur. What you want to do is to be ahead of the curve in change and want to be able to implement change that will bring huge benefit to the patients, if you're in healthcare, to your passengers if you're in transportation, to your students if you're in education. So it's across every single aspect of human existence that we have to make some progress every time. We can't stay on one spot and think that we're matching time.
How can parents encourage innovation in their children?
Good. If any child wants to do something differently, the first thing is to say, oh no, that's not how we do it. Can you do it the way it's done? That's stifling innovation. If you want to do it different, you say, okay, let's find out whether this way will yield better results than the one we did before. So you are exploring, you're pushing beyond the limit and say, because you're thinking of another way of doing it, let's see whether yours will be better, quicker, faster, or may endure longer. So if you have that, you're giving them an open-ended goal to play into. And then the second thing is that you must not be prescriptive about the answers that you're expecting from the student. You have a wide range. You have an idea of what the student should come up with. So if you ask a child a particular question, don't say, because I already know the answer and I already know how to get the answer, that child must conform to my way of thinking or my way of doing things. I should allow the child opportunity to think. I should allow the child that's playing music opportunity to modify the key that they're going to start with, the notation they're going to use. I should allow the child that's playing football to be able to innovate, come up with new ways of hitting the ball. If you give room for children to explore and experiment, you get something new. If you don't, then you're killing the innovation in them. And every child has something new to contribute to the world in one aspect of life or the other.
Every child has something new to contribute to the world in one aspect or the other. That's what we hope every teacher out there gets, that every child has something new. And exploration is the key.
It is. You want to try, you want to try, you want to see, you want to try. Some people call it a try and error, but no matter what name you call it, whether you call it experimentation, whether you call it exploration, whether you call it try and error, yes, do something new.
Let's talking about teachers. Are there any help that teachers cannot render to students in the classroom, but the students need such help?
Yes, it's that's another heavy one, because a teacher has their specific role. An encourager have a different role. A mentor have a third role. Now, if a mentor is not available and an encourager is not available, what happens is that the teacher then carries on the added burden of being a mentor as well as an encourager. A quick example is for the English language assessment, there is the reading, there's the speaking, there's the writing, and there's the listening. Now, the assistance that you can get from the teacher is very limited because you have a class of 30 students. But if you're home with your son or your daughter, the assistance is unlimited because you have only one student in front of you, and you can allow the student to make a draft presentation or a demo presentation or a practice, call it whatever you want to call it, a practice presentation. So you can hear the child speak, you can see whether the child is making eye contact, you can see whether the child is making the points that it's supposed to make and supporting with adequate evidence. If you're doing that for a class of 30, you can't do that. That's one. Two, the teacher is not allowed to support or to over-support the students, because some of the exam boards came back to say that they felt some students were overhelped. Now, if you're getting that outside the classroom, that is regarded as independent research. I mean, the students was able to assess that without the assistance of the school. That's why it's independent of the school. So if you're a parent, you have a key role. No matter what anybody tells you, you have more role to play in your son or your daughter's success than anybody can even give you the impression of. So please assist your son or your daughter, provide micromanagement, if you want to call it that way. I mean, see every single output they are going to give or submit and give in your own, suggest your own input. And go on the internet. You can't say that that's how it was done in your days. Go on the internet, research it, and see whether your son or your daughter is working in line with what the assessment criteria is in today's world.
It means officially the teachers are not allowed to micromanage the students.
They are not allowed to, and even if they were allowed to, they couldn't, because they the limit of time prevents you to do that with 30 different students or 18 different students.
So the key still lies with the parents.
Absolutely.
Well, let's go to companies now. Marks & Spencer is entering the online education market, launching a business course with Leeds University. The massive open online course, or MOOC, is a free course on business innovation. And these self-study online courses were first associated with universities, but they are now being associated with companies. Very good news for a lot of students who want to learn about innovation there. There are free courses from Leeds University, championed by Marks & Spencer. Now, how best can parents, I still go down to parents, because parents are the key personalities when it comes to the education of the children. How best can parents encourage their children to take advantage of the so many resources out there?
It's leadership. You find out that if you're a parent, if you're going to take up a new sport, or you are going to get involved in a new activity, what do? You first of all go online and use a search engine and find out the primary information that you really require. So if you're a parent, lead by example. Tell them, look, do you know that it is not all that everything that you need will not be given to you in the classroom? First and foremost, there are other facilities available to you that you can learn with and learn from. So you don't have to say, I'll wait until tomorrow when I ask my teacher this, or I'll wait until next when I ask my teacher this. Your parents can easily go online to Marks & Spencer website, see what's available, see what's happening available at the Leeds University, for instance, and see the combination of a very, very dynamic and practical aspect of business, which is retailing. And then you see what happens to economics that was taught in class, because that's practical. You're looking at supply and demand, you're looking at goods and services, you're looking at every single facet that you've seen in the textbook is now being exposed to you in real life. So Marks & Spencer must be congratulated for that, to be able to seriously look at all the mechanisms involved and then breaking it out with the universities into things that are learnable. Literally backside, you can pick up this and say, okay, let's look at customer behavior. So I can look at the high street customer behavior if I was going to be involved in any form of micro retailing, mega retailing, chains, because Marks & Spencer is a chain. So there are tons and tons of things that anyone can learn from them, and only they can teach it. The universities can't teach it because the universities do not have that practical edge that they have.
They have a very important practical edge there. And this is a new trend that Marks & Spencer is trailblazing talking about other companies joining Marks and Spencer, what subsidies can the government give to other companies to encourage them to educate the society in their own way? In other words, transferring the skills from the industry to the educational sector.
I think this is a valid charitable event. If it's charitable, the government should support them. I mean, they provide assistance to charity. Alternatively, I'm not trying to advise Marks and Spencer. They should set up an educational foundation that does that, so that they are completely immune from the restrictions that comes with a PLC or a limited liability company. So if you set up a charitable foundation, then they know that they're really doing it as a charity, and then the government can then come and support them, and as a charity they can apply to other educational charities, funders, that will provide resources for them, provide facilities for them, because it's a valid way of engaging youths in the society. It's a valid way of transferring knowledge. So it should not just be seen as a short project that runs for a period and dies out. No, I think every single meaningful company should have input back into the society. Because remember, your employers are, so you are an employer, and your employees are going to be developed using these tools. So some people will then come to know about Marks and Spencer at very close range and might be interested in applying to you. And therefore you are spreading the culture of Marks and Spencer and getting everyone introduced to the culture of Marks and Spencer. Long term, you will be able to recruit more people, great talents, and then be able to use them in pursuing your economic or commercial activities.
Let's look at Cambridge University. You taught at Cambridge yesterday alongside the mayor and the MPs. Your contribution on the leadership forum?
Yeah, I was looking at the fact that we are using very conventional tools and sometimes outdated tools to learn. I was looking at the fact that why should the library be a location in today's world? The library cannot be a location. The library is a global resource that is accessible from anywhere in the world. It has to be. If you cannot access the library from wherever you are, the library is no longer relevant to you, because you now have a dominant library called the search engines and links, and that gives you any information you really require. Because 20 years ago, 18 years ago, if you needed any piece of information, you had to come down from your house, walk all the way to the library, get there, bring your library card, they authenticate you, and then you go in and use the facilities. In today's world, that cannot be the time. We are too busy to get ourselves involved in that. What we should be able to do is 2 clicks, log into the library from wherever you are, authenticate by putting your username and the password, and then access every information. Because right now, it tells you which books are available, and it tells you what journals are available. It does not give you 100% access to the contents of the library. We should be able to do that, and that's one of the things I was sharing. And the other one is the fact that we need to understand that learning is not ending. It cannot end with a piece of paper. That's certification. Learning is a lifelong activity, because the knowledge we have today will not be adequate for tomorrow. Tomorrow's challenges will completely dwarf what knowledge we have today. The tools we used yesterday will not be useful tomorrow. And then I was again trying to say that why should we use pen and paper if we know that we have electronic devices for recording what is said and what can be said? And I tried to draw a line between just erudition and education, how anybody can be erudite in whatever.
You have so many things to tell us with that, but first of all, viewers, if you need any information, you can send emails to educationtalk@loveltv.co.uk about what was taught yesterday at Cambridge University, looking at the leadership forum. If you want to be a leader and you're wondering, what do I need to do? Do I need to go for MBA courses? Not everyone needs to go for an MBA course. You might go for a short course, and that might be just what you need to do. Send emails to educationtalk@loveltv.co.uk, and definitely Dr. Christy Mafidon will be giving you more information on that as well. We've also received quite a number of emails from parents, and Dr. Chris, you are ready to answer one of the emails we received from a parent, which was, and this was a question: is this a good time to plan for half term?
Yes, it is the best time, if anything. Some people might think it's too far ahead. Maybe you're looking at October, you're literally looking at about 4 or 5 weeks from now. If you want anything done, if you set it up now, you find out that everybody prepares for it, everybody's focused on it, and you know that when you have already revised what happened in the first half of the term, you can make a lot of corrections, because a lot of students that came into the academic year came into a year they've never been before, came into a year and they met a different teacher, or met a new range of subjects. So you need to be able to see what areas does this child need more assistance in, what type of assistance will this child require, and how can we boost that. That's one. The second one is that a lot of students are going to be writing some exams, mock exams for the year 11s. Year 6 are already starting with their 11 plus and entrance exams to top schools. Year 11 will also be writing entrance exams. So if you wanted your son or your daughter to have a head start, it's best you use your half term very productively and get yourself booked on a half-term revision course if you think there is a significant deficit between what your son or your daughter is achieving and what the standard is or what the benchmark is.
Sometimes some parents don't even know what the benchmark is, so how would they even identify the deficit?
It's fairly straightforward. If you are able to Google, or if in fact come to our website, you're able to pick up that if you are in year 6, by now you should be hitting level 4 and higher. If you are not getting level 4 and higher or level 5, then you know that there is a massive deficit. You need to do something radical about it. If you're in year 11, you should be at least getting a B grade. Now, if you're not getting a B grade or higher, then there's something wrong. You need to come back and review what has been forgotten, what has been missed, because a chunk of information may be missed because of one reason or the other. You need to catch up on that. If you don't catch up, the deficit just increases and increases and increases, and it becomes unbearable for the student, and the student may drop 2 or 3 significant grades that will not reflect the ability of the student.
And there is hope. There is hope indeed. That's one of the things we want parents to get, because really there are proven methods where you can actually turn an E grade into an A grade.
That's right.
And we've talked about that quite a number of times on this program. Dr. Chris, thank you so much for coming on this program, and we look forward to having you next week.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Viewers, this is Education Talk. If you have any questions, do send emails to educationtalk@loveworldtv.co.uk. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our programs.